What's going on, Falcon fan? This your boy Ricondo coming back at you with another video. So today, guys, we're going to talk about the 2024 draft class and how instrumental that these guys are going to be in 2025, and the contribution that we think they're going to have to make for this Atlanta Falcons to get to where they want to go. We talk about draft class, and sometimes it takes 2 or 3 years sometimes to kind of identify, how good the class was. Every year, right after the draft, scouts and media heads start to give their grades and things like that. In reality, you can't really give grades until probably, like I say, 2 or 3 years in, and then you can really determine if that draft was a success or not. So, going into this year's 2025, looking at how excited we was about the 2025 draft class, maybe we might get, quick returns back on these guys that because we're so high on them, what we think about. But if you go back to last year's draft class and look at some of the guys and look at how much, playing time they actually got. And so the jury's still out on a lot of these guys. And we're going to talk about some of those guys today. And I definitely want to hear back what you guys think about the 2024 draft class and how instrumental you think they're going to be. So, with that being said, if you have not already, go ahead and please subscribe to the channel. Please hit that notification bell so you know I drop another video. Please hit the like button so I know you guys are here to talk about. And please share my video throughout the YouTube universe so more people can come here and talk about. That's right, these Atlanta Falcons. So, guys, we're going to talk about the 2024 draft class, right? We was excited about the 2025 draft class, starting out with Jalen Walker, James Pierce Jr., Xavier Watts, Billy Bowman Jr., then ended up with the, Jack Nelson right outside in the 7th round, right? So good draft. And then you look at undrafted guys. We're so excited about what the 2025 draft class is going to be able to do. However, when you're looking at the 2024 draft class, we have to go back and look and the expectation for these guys and what they're going to be able to bring to the table. So last year, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The Atlanta Falcons had 8 draft picks last year. 8, right? And we kind of forget about those guys and what they're going to be able to bring to the table. So we're going to definitely go down the list and determine what you guys think about, each one of these guys and I give you my input, what I think, definitely 100%. Are these guys going to be able to do what they do, or are the grade that we thought we was going to give on these guys is going to be what it is, right? So the first guy, 100%, number 8th overall pick, which shook up the world last year, NFL world, sports world, was Michael Penix Jr. The Falcons took him after signing Kirk Cousins six weeks before that to $180 million contract, right? This was definitely a surprise, but he was a pick for the future just like all your picks, when you picking in the draft, you're picking the guys that you hope to be able to sustain your team for years to come, not just for 1 or 2 years. So, of course, this Michael Penix Jr. pick was definitely a pick for the future. If you go back to some of my videos, basically that's what I said. This was a pick for 2025, not 2024, when they picked Michael Penix Jr. So, right. So, just looking at the number 8th overall pick for the 2024 draft class, when I say will be instrumental in success, this is like a no-brainer here, right? Because he's been named the starter quarterback for 2025. So Michael Penix Jr. is 100% is going to be instrumental in the success and the for the Atlanta Falcons in 2025, and probably you know 3 or 4 other players. He might be the most important player going into the 2025 class, going to 2025 year, not just because he's coming from the draft class, because he's the quarterback, so it's the most important position. He's been named the starter. So looking at Michael Penix Jr., 100%, he definitely is going to be instrumental for his success of the Atlanta Falcons in 2025. And I really don't have to say a whole lot more about that. because we already know. I think I just did a video earlier this week about the pressure they put on Michael Penix Jr. for him to be able to form to get his offense, to be able to score the amount of points what we need them to score for our defense can flourish. So without a doubt, Michael Penix Jr. is definitely is going to be instrumental this season, no doubt about it. I don't even think we have to go into enormous details about Michael Penix Jr. because we know what to expect from him, right? So, I'm not going to belabor a long lot of topics on this, but at the end of the day, for Michael Penix Jr., we need him to be able to perform. The biggest thing, don't turn the ball over. I think if he do that well, don't turn the ball over. I think that's been our Achilles heel, the turnovers and things like that, over the last couple seasons. But if he can limit the turnovers, create explosive plays, be good on third down and in the red zone, that's what we want him to do, right? Go feed off that running game by Bijan Robinson. So the next guy is on the list is Rook, right? Rook Ororo. It's a guy that the Atlanta Falcons decided to move up in the draft last year and take him. So they had convictions on here. You hear about Terry Fontenot and Raheem Morris talking about having convictions on players and things like that. When you look at a guy like Rook Ororo, they went up and got him, right? And they always, when they want a guy, they go up and get him. There's no hesitation there. They actually they live in that, they strong in that, and they definitely 100% make sure that when they want a guy, they go up and go get him. So Rook Rororo, but let's be honest, he's filling in the big shoes of Mr. Falcon himself, Grady Jarrett, right? So he's definitely going to play an instrumental role. I think Rook Rororo, if you look at the conviction they had, the things he was able to do at the University of Clemson, the flashes that he showed last year in his his limited playing time that he got, because we know he did sustain injury in training camp, came back slow, but he did have some big plays, some tackle for losses and things like that. So, but we need to see more consistency. We need to see that jump from year one to year two for Rook, which is going to be huge. Like I said, he's definitely going to be instrumental for the Atlanta Falcons' success in 2025. And the Atlanta Falcons definitely have, high hopes for this guy. This is a guy that they moved up in the draft to go get, or were guys that a lot of people thought the Atlanta Falcons should have took sooner. So this right here is you know, when a team believes in you, have conviction in you to move up in you and things like that, you need to prove them right. That's pretty much what it boils down to. No matter what anybody else says, and then prove yourself right. You believe that you're that guy, a dominant guy. You think you can fill the Grady Jarrett shoes. That's what we want to see. So Rook Rororo is definitely 100% is a guy that we need to see. Step up and be dynamic this year to fill in for Grady Jarrett. Playing beside, David Amayada. Hopefully he some stuff from Grady rubbed off on him last year. That would be really, really good. So definitely want to see what he's able to do. And I can't wait to see. I know you guys are excited about Rook. And we heard Raheem Morris. He said it, that he's going to play his young guys a lot. Well, in some instances, especially when you're looking at 2024 draft class, I don't think he have a choice. I think he got to play him regardless. So it doesn't matter, because these guys are going to be counted on to deliver this year. It's just that simple. So Rook Rororo got some big shoes to fill, of course, but we're going to see. I think going into this new defense with Nate Ali, it's going to benefit Rook a lot because, instead of trying to take on double teams, they want him to, concentrate on one gap and get upfield, right? That's what he want to do. If you look at the way Rook plays, I think that plays some of his strengths. So let's hope that works for him. And that's what we're going to see from Rook Roar. So I can't wait to see what he's going to bring to the table. I know you guys can't either. Let's go into the next guy. which would be Braylon Trice, right? So this is when you think about Braylon Trice, right? We think about what Braylon Trice is going to bring to the table. This is like bringing a new player in to the team, 100% a new player, because we really didn't get to see anything from Braylon Trice last year, nada, right? We I think we saw one preseason game against Miami. He went down, so we saw flashes in training camp, but that's training camp going up against your own teammates. So bringing in Braylon Trice, a guy whose motor was nonstop when he was at University of Washington. Led the league and led the NCAA in pressures, coming out in 2024. So this guy here is like bringing another guy. So if you're looking at a guy like Braylon Trice, right, you're actually adding him to Leonard Floyd, Jalen Walker, James Pierce Jr., Braylon Trice. These are guys that the Atlanta Falcons did not have available, trying to get out the quarterback last year, and you add in a guy like Braylon Trice to the mix. So I think Braylon Trice, yes, and when you just look at the names we just talked about, the pass rusher room is crowded. It's really crowded, right? Right, because you're looking at a guy like Braylon Trice, a guy that we didn't see, added him to the pass rusher room, where we're already excited about the additions that we brought in this offseason with Leonard Floyd, Jalen Walker, and James Pierce Jr., right? You bringing in Braylon Trice, a guy that we did not see, and a lot of people was really impressed about, what he was doing in training camp before he went down. And like I said, a guy who led the NCAA in pressures in 2023 coming out. So you gotta like what you saw from Braylon Trice in college, and adding a fresh body to that pass rush room. It almost like Armor Ebiketie is a forgotten man, but he led the team in sacks last year, right? So you got a guy, Armor Ebiketie, coming back, right? Who's going in the contract year that we expect to be able to up tip his game, right? But then you bring in all these fresh bodies to that pass rush room. Atlanta Falcons should not have an excuse. It should be not an excuse for Atlanta Falcons pass rush to be dominant this year. I'm just saying it, man. If they pass rush can't be dominant this year, it's got to be coaching. It's just hard for me to believe that this many players that specialize in getting after the quarterback can't get it done. Starting to look, the Atlanta Falcons might have one of the deepest pass rushing rooms in the league, man. Just looking at these guys. Yes, some of them are unproven in the pros, but at the same time, if they go to their ceiling, you can be high. You can really be excited about what we're going to get out of the Atlanta Falcons pass rush. And Braylon Trice is a guy that we did not get to see last year. Bigger body guy, right? Who's bigger than James Pierce Jr., a little bit bigger than Jalen Walker, but a guy, like I said, and for me, when I thought about looking at him on tape last year, he kind of reminded me of like the motor that he had, like a Trey Henderson, like a Max Crosby, a guy who motor just never stops. That's what I've seen. Of course, then test athletically outside, out the world, but at the same time, what I've seen from Braylon Trice is just his motor, his relentlessness, trying to get to the ball. And that's what you like. And like I said, so to me, it's like a new body coming in, right? So, we're excited about Walker and Pierce Jr., but I think Trice need to be added to that list too, because he's the forgotten man. Don't know if he's going to be back 100%, off that ACL injury. I anticipate him to be ready for training camp, but we'll have to see, because that'll be almost a year coming back from that injury. So, yeah, man, Braylon Trice, I'm excited to see what he get to do. And you don't want to forget about him, because, a guy that has never had opportunity to show what he could bring to this Atlanta Falcon team, right? It's been overshadowed by the 2 draft picks that they picked this year. They expect to do big things, but a guy like Braylon Trice, I'm excited to see what he brings to the table. Georgia, Texas boy says, "What's up, Racondo and Falcon Family Fan? Memorial Day, the new era. He's here. Atlanta Falcon will rise in 2025. No doubt, no doubt, no doubt, no doubt, no doubt." Appreciate that. But guys, when we think about Braylon Trice, man, I'm excited to see what he's going to be able to bring to the table. And I think he could have helped last year. Honestly, I really do. I really do think he could have helped. But guess what? He can help this year. We can help this year. So I'm excited to see what Brandon Trice brings to the table. I know all you guys are excited too, but yes, I think he will be instrumental 100% into the success of Atlanta Falcons this year. I just don't know how it's going to work yet. Um, Atlanta Falcons got a lot of good problems to have with the depth in that outside linebacker room. So slash defense and end room. I love it. I love it a lot. The next guy on the table, Troy Texas Boy says, when you look at our pass rushers, we have every type of pass rusher. Exactly, man. We got a matter of fact, if I like so I like to look at it. We got the long lanky type speed rushers, right? And Leonard Floyd, who's an older guy, and then you got James Prince Jr. Got same prototype, 6'5", 6'4" type size, lanky, being able to get the quarterback right. You got those two guys. And then you got a K Nellis mix and a Jalen Walker that could do a little bit of everything. Linebacker, rush the passer, right? Both of those type of guys. You correct about that. Then we got Armor Katie, is another guy coming off the edge with those long arms. You know, look what he was able to do. You know, last year after the bye, coming out being really productive. You know, I starting to like his ability to come back. Right, he go past the pass rush and be able to come back and trail the play and make big plays. He did that a lot last year. You're starting to see he's trying to understand that motor, like I said, like a Braden Trice. Then you got a guy like Braden Trice that you mentioned, and man, you are right. It's a lot of different types of pass rushers, and it's really going to be interesting how they deploy these guys, man. It's going to be interesting. Like I'm saying, like the Atlanta Falcons have no excuse this year, and I'm not just talking about the 2 draft picks that we got. Yes, we're excited about those, but all the other guys that I just talked about, they shouldn't have an excuse, man, to get after the quarterback. You know, so I'm excited to see what they can bring to the table. So great point about the different types, but we got it all, man. Whatever you want, what's your flavor? Pick your poison, right? And we hear Nate Ali talking about keep throwing haymakers with this number of pass rushers. You can keep fresh bodies out there too, and keep putting the pressure on the opposing QB. So great point about the types, different types. But yeah, I can't wait to see what Brandon Trice brings to the table. I know you can't. You guys can't either. The next guy on the list is a guy that definitely did not get much playing time at all. He probably was on the end at the list more than that you would like as a rookie. But of course, that defensive line was really veteran heavy last year. So Brandon Dorlus, a guy that never really got to show what he's capable of as well. But if you go back and look what he was able to do, now we hear Nate Ali say he's going to use him and Harrison more as big ends, right? But that's what he was really good at in college, being on the end, being able to wreak havoc. Man, this is going to be exciting to see this guy, and the fact that they have the opportunity this year, right? A lot of times guys don't get on the field for whatever reason. We kind of know the reason last year because they were so deep in the defensive line room, but I really believe Brandon Dorlus is going to get his opportunity this year. And the fact that the style of play that the Atlanta Falcons is trying to go out this year, he used the analogy going into a dark room, right? I love it, man. You can see the mentality that the coaching staff is bringing, right? And you can feed that every day, every practice, all through minicamp, all through training camp, going through the dark room, going to get after the quarterback, right? And all these guys start talking that same language, right? Man, could be like a pack of dogs, man. That's what we want to see. But Brandon Dorlus is a guy that was a really good pass rusher at the University of Oregon. He was. Go back and look at his numbers. He's a really good pass rusher. And, coming out the end, that's why they got him, right? Because his ability to get out to the passer. Now, you notice when I'm talking about a lot of these guys, I'm talking about pass rush, right? Because if you listen to Jeff Ulbrich, you listen to Ali, their whole philosophy with this new defense, the textile defense, is we're going to stop the run on the way to the pass rush, right? So it's going to be interesting to see how that works out, right? I'm really interested to see, because you have to stop the run, right? We can't neglect the run. But if you hear their philosophy is going to get the quarterback, right? And on the way to get the quarterback, you're going to be able to get tackle for loss. You're going to be able to blow up running plays and things like that. That's the vision. If you go back to look at this is philosophy, the Legion of Boom, right? You go back to Dan Quinn again, talk about, looking at that kind of defense that he ran. And that's what their style was. Guys like Michael Bennett and things, right? Shooting the gap, getting upfield, gap, attack philosophy. That's what you're trying to do. This your gap. You're going to attack your gap, and you're going to get up the field. And Brandon Dorlus, he excelled at that, right? So Rook excelled at that. We just talked about him, right? You got a guy with a relentless motor in Braylon Trice, right? Attack. So I love it. But Brandon Dorlus, 100%, is going to be instrumental this year, right? And all these guys are young, right? You hate doing comparisons, right? But you look at a young Los Angeles Ram team, how they was able to really develop this year, and start to wreak havoc. Atlanta Falcons have the same potential. I mean, at least that's what, when you're drafting these guys, that's what you think you want to see. And they're going to get opportunity this year. So, I love it because it's going to be make or break for some of these guys. And then you get an idea about, the conviction and the vision, the conviction and, Terry, and Raheem drafting these guys last year, and then the vision for what our defensive coordinator, him and Nate Ali, and Jeff Ulbrich, those guys, how they going to utilize these guys. That's what it's going to be about. You said CJ Hill said Ali likes Dorless a lot. Exactly. I mean, like I said, we didn't get to see him. Like, I could say the same thing about Dorless and I said about Trice. Well, Trice was on an injury, right? That's why we didn't get to see him. But Dorless, kind of the same. Like, these are new players that's gonna be able to showcase their talents this year on this 2025. So, you said, what did the Atlanta Falcons do in the offseason, right? We talk about the free agents we brought in. We talk about the draft class. But then you just got to talk about guys that developed last year that didn't get opportunity, to play this year. And that's what we got. We got a lot of those guys on this team. So, the investment that the Atlanta Falcons made on the defensive front last year, hopefully what we're saying, they're going to show up this year. That's what we want to see. And you're right. He does like Dorless. Seeing the videos, they chatted up, they get into it. Dorless needs to give Penix hell. Yep, he did. He sure did. Go back and look at those Washington Oregon games. Of course, Penix beat him twice, right? But that's why we love Penix. But at the same time, yeah, he really did. He made havoc on Michael Penix in those games. T. Terry said, I really like Walker playing all over the defense. Yes. And I think it's going to be that way. But I like the fact that they're starting him off just strictly a pass rusher. Because I that's real easy, right? When they say we want you to do, learn how to get after the passer. That's all you need to do this season. Get after the passer, right? You develop your the moves, you ready your counter moves, and then utilize that dog mentality, that relentlessness that you used to go get our players. Another thing what I like about Jalen Walker is when Jerry Gray was talking about the games he go watch. And I like what he said. And he said he watched the rivalry games, right? The big games. And he said every game in the NFL is like the rival game. It's like the big game. And what he meant was the way they played, when the lights was the brightest, and when it had a lot at stake, right? Those Texas games that we watched, Jalen Walker, those some of his best games, and that was with one of the best opponents they was going to play against. The Alabama games, you go watch those games. Those games where he shined the brightest in those big games. The Clemson game, the first game of the season, shined the brightest. And I like that, right? Because that means, when the lights come on, you're playing big. You're not playing against a lesser opponent. You still want to dominate lesser opponent. I'm not saying that, but my point is when the lights are the brightest, that's when he showed out, and I love it, man. I love that. The Rams and the Jets made it work with younger players. That's right. You got to play them. I mean, at the end of the day, they just didn't play last year. We don't know what they could have been, right? The fact of the matter is, Brandon Dorlus and Rupert Aurora didn't get opportunity to play a lot of snaps last year, and maybe they would have, started to come in their own towards the end of the season, in the middle of the season. We just don't know. Because they didn't get opportunities. Now, Braden Trice, we know he went down to injury, so he didn't get opportunity at all. But those two guys just didn't get opportunities. So, this year don't have a choice, though. That's what I love about it. They don't have a choice. So you're right, 100% right. Those teams are good examples. When we got Watts, I forgot we had Fuller too. Yeah, exactly. Right. Jordan Fuller, veteran coming in. That's why you like this, how deep the safety room is, right? It's really deep. And Fuller is a solid player, right? And that's good competition. Jerry Gray mentioned it. If Watt beats out Fuller, that means we got a deep safety room, because we know Fuller is a competent player in this league, and if Watts can beat him out, you just like the depth there. You really do. Don't forget, Broncos gave up 70 points in the game in 2023, ended up number one total defense a year later. A big defensive jump is definitely possible. Great point that you make about this. And, the crazy part about that is that you have to figure out what the players do well. I mean, if you just look at Atlanta Falcons, because it's a mixed bag, right? The first half of the season, they was all over the place. Right after the bye, they started to play better. But then the last two games, they played like crap. So it was a mixed bag. It was mixed bags. And I just really believe that coaching matters. Coaching really matters, right? I think the Atlanta Falcons have the players. I think they have the talent. I don't think it's a question about that now, right? I think they're deep in a lot of areas, and I think they have the talent to be able to be good defense. Now, this where the coaching come in. So, you were right. It's definitely possible to be able to change the way you play. But they gotta want it, man. They gotta go get it. Hopefully they do that. We're gonna see here, where it lands. But we just gotta see, the Atlanta Falcons defense take the step forward. That's why it's so unknown, because we don't know what to expect from these guys. But we all feel like they should be a better defense this year with the additions they added, not just in the draft, but the entire offseason. Because you mentioned Jordan Fuller as well. We finally at young cornerstones at key position. Jake replacement is coming in 1 or 2 years. Yeah, man. Yep. We got good pieces. You're right. Now they got to just be able to deliver, right? I suspect, and I expect these guys to have flashes this season. I realize about it, especially these guys we drafted this year. I expect them to have splash plays, man. I think that their game from college should translate to the pros, right? So that's what we expect. We want to see this. And you're right, cornerstone at a lot of different positions. Young cornerstones too. Unfortunately, the business eventually will come into play, right? Contracts and things like that. That's why you got to, you know, be able to capitalize on these situations when you're not paying your quarterback, you know, 200 something $1 million a year. So you got to capitalize on these moments. George Texas Boy says, I think last season with their first year DC, Raheem and Lake relied heavy on the vets. With and veteran DC, I think it would be different. Great point about they because they played a lot of veterans. You're right, but I just think they, it feels like they didn't play the guys to their strength. Like in my opinion, Matthew Judon, you know, trying to guard, freaking what's the name out the backfield, Miles Sanders out the backfield in the last game of the season. It's just ridiculous. That's a mismatch, right? And I throw that ball 10 times out of 10. If you're gonna put Matthew Judon on Miles Sanders coming out the backfield on a wheel route, I'm going to take that matchup every time. Like who called that play? Like it's just stuff like that, man. It's like Matthew Judon should be going up the field, the attacking, right, instead of backpedaling, trying to guard a running back coming out the backfield. Just don't like that. I knew Jimmy Pond was a fraud ever since his first press conference. Yeah, we didn't know what to expect. First time DC, man, we really didn't know what to expect from Jimmy Lake. So, and we got our answer, and that's why he's gone. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, let's get to the next guy. The next guy is JD Bertrand, right? Now, JD Bertrand actually had his opportunity, and he played a lot for the Atlanta Falcons last year due to injuries, right? He played more than I think the Atlanta Falcons probably, wanted, because a young guy coming in, but we got a guy who can't stay healthy in that position, and Troy Anderson, right? A guy that we had high hopes for, a guy that was raw, a guy like Troy Anderson that was really raw, that had played a lot of positions in college, running back, quarterback, linebacker, um, but just a rare athlete. Look at his, tested well, and you feel like being able to play quarterback, being able to play running back, that being able to pick up, the linebacker position should be easy, but of course it's going to be raw because you got to have those instincts, right, to get downhill. But his ability to run sideline to sideline, and we have seen really good plays from Troy Anderson, right? His only issue with Troy Anderson is he can't stay healthy. It's just that simple, right? So bringing up JD Bertrand, a guy that was a captain for the Fighting Irish, 2 years ago, that when he got drafted, people started calling saying this is a good football player. He even got the nickname from Raheem Morris to start the season last year, Captain America, right? A guy just going to do everything he do. Now he also took an injury, right? He had a concussion. I think he missed 2 games. But JD Bertrand, it's going to be interesting to see what his role is going to be this year, right? That Troy Anderson should be back again. They brought in Divine Diablo, another guy that's going to be in the mix who runs sideline to sidelines as well. Kay Nellis, going to be interested to see what his role takes him on his ability to be able to get after the passer, right? So JD Bertrand going and putting himself into the mix of of that linebacker room. You like the depth that's there, but depends on how well Troy can get back, Divine Diablo, and what they do with Kay Nellis, right? We're gonna see what they do with those guys. So it's really gonna be interesting to see with J.D. Bertrand foul, but he played a big role for Atlanta Falcons last year. You know, I think he probably got more play time than all the rookies last year. If you want to think about it, you know, all 8 rookies that played, J.D. Bertrand probably got the most time. And we'll see where it falls this year. But he definitely going to play instrumental, special teams, and being able to pick up the slack if anybody goes down in injury once again. So that's what you like to see from him. Terry said JD is small. Yes, he is, but he's a tackling machine, man. He really is. He's a tackling machine. Um, but to your point, you know, linemen probably get their hands on him. They're gonna be able to block him out of the play. So he doesn't want his instincts, you know, need to come and play and beat guys to the hole, beat them to the punch. That's what you got to be able to do. George Chaser Boy say JD built like Nick Bolton. And I don't know about Nick Bolton. You saying built? I can see that. You know, small and compact and bring some power. So I can see that. But Nick Bolton probably a better linebacker than JD Bertrand though. Teacher said Troy Anderson played quarterback in college. He would like a Josh Allen for since 6'4", 200. Yeah, man, he was. He was really good in college. What's going on, Kerry? And I agree with you. Troy Anderson just needs to stay healthy. What it boils down to. And that's why, you know, they feel like he'll be able to pick up the linebacker position so fast, right? Playing quarterback, you have to learn defenses, right? You know where a linebacker's supposed to be. Matter of fact, think about it. You know, you're a quarterback, you're picking out the Mike linebacker, right? It kind of tell you where the defense is and things like that. So you think Troy Anderson be able to pick up, but it's not, you know, his ability not being able to play. It's his ability, his availability. That's really the issue with Troy Anderson. He just can't stay healthy. Last 2 seasons have had season-ending injuries pretty much. So, you know, he got to stay on the field, and you know, he's starting to be forgotten man because of that, right? If you can't stay healthy, you know, don't do the team any good. It just won't fare. So not being able to stay healthy, it hurts the team a lot. So that's Troy Anderson not. But we seen the play. We seen the block punch, right? We seen, you know, knocking Justin Fields out of the game. We seen the pick 6 that he had last year. We seen the plays that the tackle for losses that he had made, right? His ability to rush the passer as well, you know, because of the speed he has. So we seen flashes from Troy Anderson. The only knock on him is he can't stay healthy. So hopefully we get more for him this year. Troy Anderson is an injury settlement in a way. Yeah, especially this training camp. You might be right, man. If he get hurt again, it's just not gonna be good. Gary says Troy has been hurt more than he's been on the field. Unfortunately, really hope this season he stays healthy along with the rest of. Yeah, man, we're gonna knock on the wood when you say stuff like that, Gary. We're gonna knock on the wood. We're gonna knock on the wood. Troy Anderson might need to change positions. To what? Which he can change position to what? He's an athlete, and he probably could change positions. You're probably right. He probably could. He probably could play fullback or something like that. But we'll see. I just think he needs to stay healthy, man. At the end of the day. But JD Bertrand, guys, yes, I think he's going to play an instrumental role. It's not anything for special teams and depth, right? Did you said we didn't need him. We don't need him at edge anymore. Nope, we don't. Don't need him at edge, man. I think we good there. We good at edge. I think we're good. Let's see. Next guy, guys. Casey Washington, right? Casey Washington kind of like the forgotten man, right? Out of all the guys that got drafted last year, he's kind of like forgotten man. We already looking at Nick Nash and you know and, and those guys, Skinner, and thinking they're going to come in and take Casey Washington's spot, right? But let's be honest, probably the most chemistry that Michael Penix got on the team may be with Casey Washington, right? Um, he was his go-to guy. He threw the ball to him a lot in training camp, a lot during the off season, workout and stuff like that. So he might have more time on task with Michael Penix Jr., than the starters did at the time. So Casey Washington, a guy that did not flash a whole lot in college, but his ability to catch the ball and make, timely possession catches and things like that. Casey Washington has the opportunity to still do that. So, we kind of forgot about Casey Washington and things like that because he's going to be on the back end from the receiver end. But, having the chemistry with a quarterback is never a bad thing, right? And he does have that with Michael Penix Jr. So looking at that from the standpoint of looking at Casey Washington, I think he has the opportunity to make this squad, right? And he's going to be competing probably for that fifth and sixth, depending on how many receivers they keep for the 6 man receiver, with Nick Nash and with Skinner, you know, we keep forgetting we got Jamal Agnew on the team That he's gonna take a roster spot. I don't know what position they have him at, but of course he's our returner, right? But he's gonna be on this roster. And they put him in as a receiver? They put him as a specialist? I don't know, but when you build a roster, 20 to 50-man roster, have so many receivers, so many, safety, so many cornerbacks, linebackers, etc. So you're going to have to be able to decide. So Casey Washington, I wonder if they're going to do 5 or 6 man receiver or a 50-man roster. But Casey Washington is definitely is going to put himself in the mix, with the likes of with Nick Nash and Skinner and things like that. So I can't wait to see, you know, what Casey Washington brings to the table, but he does have the upper hand because, like I said, I think he has probably the most chemistry with Michael Penix Jr. than any other receiver on the team. You don't know how much time on task, Michael don't have with Drake and Darnell now and Ray, over the off season stuff like that. But we know last year that's where he went a lot, and that was with Casey Washington. So definitely going to be able to see um, what he'd be able to bring to the table. George Texas Boy said Casey is a sleeper for wide receiver 3. Could be. Like I said, the chemistry is there, man. Chemistry is there. And you say Penix definitely like Casey, 100%. Washington is a forgotten player. He knocked his own self out of the game. It's not a good. Oh, you talking about in the Denver game, right? He tried to dive for the ball. Yeah, saw that. But it's just one game, and he didn't get opportunity. So you put him in the same mix where I put Brandon Trice and I put Brandon Dorless, guys that we didn't really get to see last year. So we can't have a lot of negative things to say about these guys because they just didn't get opportunity to play, right? So this their year to have opportunities to show what they're capable of, show things that they'll be able to do. So Casey Washington, Brandon Dorless. I don't want to put Brandon Trice in there because he took an injury, so that wasn't it's not like they made him inactive. He just was going to be inactive. He was out on IR, so it's different for him. But Brandon Dorless and Casey Washington was like healthy scratches for the season, majority of the season. So these guys going to get a chance, the opportunity to play this year, and they got to take advantage of the opportunities, right? They're going to get the opportunity this year, and they need to take advantage of it. And Dirk say he knows the playbook 100%. So yeah, he has the upper hand. 100. He has the upper hand. I agree with you on that. But he going up against a guy who won a triple crown in college. Triple crown in college. Nick Nash, right? A lot of people say they one of the still undrafted guys. Skinner out of Vanderbilt was really, really good as well. So it's going to be interesting to see which one of these guys make the team, which one make the practice squad. So I can't wait to see that. And then, guys, let's go to our last guy who's no longer with the team right now, but he was drafted and he was poached off the practice squad last year. And that was Zion Logue. I think most people, we probably forgot about Zion Logue because, like I said, he didn't make the 53-man roster. It was just too deep. Didn't make the 53-man roster. However, he was put on the practice squad for the Atlanta Falcons, but he was poached by the Buffalo Bills. So I'm not sure if he's still with the Buffalo Bills or not. We have to go to probably look and see if he's still on that team. Maybe he's still on the practice squad, but well, when they poached him, they put him on the active roster. So, but that's another guy that I like, from the University of Georgia. Georgia, the Falcons had to get their Georgia quarter in a year, and they got Zion Lowe, a guy that I thought maybe had some upside, a bigger body guy, that really could have helped the Atlanta Falcons. I don't know how he fits this new scheme though. When the coaching staff want guys to attack and get up the field, but Zion Lowe was a guy that will takes on those double teams and things like that and free up that space of those linebackers. So, but he was the last guy. So just wanted to throw him out there because people might have forgot about Zion Lowe, but he's not with us no more. But the other 7 guys are, and I still one more guy because it's 8 guys there. So it's still one more guy I haven't talked about yet. But Zion Lowe was the last guy we picked last year. Didn't make the team. But he was put on the practice squad. And now let's talk about the last guy. And the last guy is Chase. Is it Jace or Chase? Jace McCollum, right? The running back out of Alabama, right? And he's playing for his contract this year and maybe potentially being the backup next year. Because I think we all suspect Tyler Algier not to be with Atlanta Falcons next year, right? He's in his last season, and he has starter written all over him talking about Tyler Algier. So he had an opportunity to get paid somewhere else, even though running backs don't get paid a lot. They're still low on the totem pole, but I think he can get more with another team than he would get with the Atlanta Falcons. So looking at a guy like Jace coming in, I think he has opportunity to be the number 2 going into 2026, but he has to be able to be productive this year, be a good special teamer, wait his time in case, knock on wood again, one of those other 2 guys go down, because we know the 2 workhorses is going to be Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier. But Jace McCullough, you really like his running style, what he was able to do at the University of Alabama. But can't wait to see what he brings to the table. So, I suspect him to, if he does make the roster, be on special teams, be able to be productive there. Maybe be the person protector on punt or something like that. We'll just have to see what he brings to the table. But Jace, I think more than anything, is trying to solidify himself. So when Tyler Algier leaves after this season, he can be the clear backup to Bijan Robinson in the years to come. So there you have it, guys. There you have it. That's the 2024 draft class. These guys got big shoes to fill. None of these guys are expected to still be in so-called developmental role next year. I think they all going to be instrumental. I think they all going to play big roles. And what the Atlanta Falcons how successful the NFL is going to be. You know, some of these guys goes without saying, right? You look at a guy like Michael Penix, you look at Rook. Those two, the first two picks, of course, need to really be able to deliver this year. But then you got guys like Braylon Trice, who's you know could be the secret weapon for Atlanta Falcons. Like I said, we didn't get to see him play last year, so I would just add him to this year's rookie class and see, you know, the depth that they brought in from that aspect. Brandon Doyle is a guy that I think is going to be utilized, to more his strengths, the way he would utilize the Oregon, playing on the end, being able to get upfield, filling those gaps. So JD Bertrand is going to be a solid depth piece for the Atlanta Falcons. Could be that guy for years to come. Casey Washington, just like some guys said, he could be a sleeper for wide receiver 3. We just don't know. And then Jace is the last guy trying to be able to make the roster so he can be that potential number 2 behind Bijan for years to come. T. Terry said Nate Carter is running back 1. I really like. He's a running back that runs Bijan and has power like Tyler. Yeah, man. Yeah, Jace got some competition. Definitely got competition. So it's gonna be interesting to see what he's able to do. See if he'll be able to pull it off. But all these guys had an opportunity to put their mark on this Atlanta Falcon team, and then we can finally give a grade, right? People want to give grades like right after the draft, which is crazy, right? None of these guys have played a snap in the NFL yet, and you're already giving D's and F's and things like that. And because even when guys get D's and F's, right, because it's where they had these guys on their board or whatever, you don't know where the Falcons had them on their board. The Falcons might have had them really high, so their grade don't always be an A because that's where they don't feel like they reach for a guy or something like that. So that's why you have to wait and see what these guys are going to do on the NFL field before you start to spot out all your grades. But in my opinion, humble opinion, I believe that every last one of these guys, 7 guys, 8, we had 8 draftees. Zion Lowe's not here anymore, but those 7 guys all going to play an instrumental role in the success of the Atlanta Falcons in 2025. From Michael Penix Jr. to Jason McCollum, right? We're definitely going to see what these guys are going to be able to bring to the table. So, guys, let me know what you think. Which out of these 7 guys that's still on the roster, let me know which one you think is going to bring the most dividend. And you can't say Michael Penix Jr. because we already know he's the most important on a team, not just the 2024 draft class. But who else do you believe, right? Do you believe it's going to be, the hidden gem in Brandon Trice, who we haven't seen, Ruka Aurora, who's trying to fill the shoes for Grady Jarrett, or Brandon Dorless, a guy who finally is going to get his opportunity to shine, or even that Casey Washington, a guy that just going to have to compete for a roster spot in that receiver room. So I can't wait to see. I know you guys can't wait to see the Atlanta Falcons start their phase 3 or OTAs this week. And then, starting in June, they're going to go to a mandatory mini camp. So it's starting to ramp up, starting to get excited. Hopefully we get some more content out of the Atlanta Falcons, media team. So we kind of see what's going on, the progress of, what's transpiring with the team. One thing we haven't heard is Kirk Cousins. Is he there? I think he's been in and out. We haven't seen any video of him at all, right? They say he's been there, so it's gonna be interesting to see when they go to mandatory minicamp if he actually shows up and be there. There's still rumors going around, about potentially the Pittsburgh Steelers might still be in the mix for him because they're still waiting on Aaron Rodgers. There's rumors about Jalen Ramsey potentially still coming to Atlanta Falcons. So once we get the news, guys, I'll definitely be back on here and to give you my thoughts and definitely hear from you guys on what you think as well. But there you have it, the 2024 draft class and their impact and how instrumental they're going to be on this season in 2025. This is your boy Ricondo coming back at you with another video. Peace.